As you all know, the list of characters in Dragon Ball Legends is incredibly expansive, and it's just going to keep on adding more and more characters of all different rarities. But when I look at the list of characters, I couldn't help but notice that a ton of the characters here are no longer really good or viable and things like that. And there are a ton, and hear me, a ton of characters that deserve character buffs. So for today's video, we're going to go ahead and isolate a few of them and talk about them. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Hit that subscribe if you are new for more content. And of course, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, so I've pretty much narrowed the list down a good bit, but we're going to still narrow it a lot more. So honorable mentions go to characters like the Legends Road characters. I think that half of those characters do deserve character buffs, but I wouldn't want it to take up one of our 5 spots, obviously, on the character balancing thing that they do every few months. But they do deserve it, I think. And I think there are other older Sparkings that, while they're good as bench units, do deserve buffs as well. Units like the green Sparking Goten, who can still do pretty good damage in some spots, but he's not particularly good anymore. Same goes for Trunks. And again, there are other older units like that too that we're coming up on a year on some of these units, like Sparking Red Gogeta. And like there are characters like that that once upon a time were phenomenal and can still be good in different spots, but I think could obviously be better. And they're not on this list, but honorable mention. So for what we do have right now, before I narrow it down further, is this Goku, we have this Trunks, this Goku, this Gohan, this Android 18, this Broly, we do have this Goku, another Goku, Super Trunks, fused with Kami Piccolo, Android 16, Super Vegeta, we have Bardock, we have Cell, and we have Super Saiyan Goku. So we're just gonna go ahead and from here actually narrow it down a good bit more. Man, I think this guy deserves a spot on this list, but I don't know. He might get used a little bit too much overall. The bench units don't count overall for the rankings that they have, the system that they have in place, but I think he might get used in spots on teams a little bit too much to actually make it onto the list. So I'm going to go ahead and eliminate him from mine, but overall, though, I think he deserves it. Okay, so this character here I think I'm going to remove as well. I think same reason as Vegeta, she might get used in spots as a female warrior yellow character, probably a little bit too much. Even though you might not see her too much in PvP, I still think that she probably gets used just a little bit more than some of the other characters on the list. So by extension, I think she wouldn't get a chance at being buffed just yet. But for the record, though, if they were to buff this character, add Android Z ability too, even if it's just post 5-star, she could, again, at least be a good bench unit. But my problem with this character specifically is she's a double blast holding unit. And on a team like Androids specifically that have access to a number of those, you know, Android 13, who's a good blast unit, I don't know if he holds double. He might be 1-in-1. He's double, yeah. This character who's double as well, despite the fact he changes them, right? Your best units are melee units like Cell, like Fusion 13. This guy can kind of be both. He doesn't really have a preference, which is why he holds 1-in-1. So stuff like that, I don't really think it's a good thing in particular. And again, on females, it's a little bit different because females can go either way. They can have access to primarily a strike focus or a blast focus. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and remove her, but I do think she deserves one. I don't know, man. This is one I'm going to have to knock off the list. For the record, I think he deserves it. Like, I really do think he deserves it. And I think he has very good melee potential. He could wind up being one of the best melee characters in the game overall. If you look at Android 14, they have a very similar playstyle, built-in feints and stuff like that on their strike cards, albeit a little bit different scenario as to how they get them. But overall, though, this Trunks, 100% I think he deserves it. His Z ability, too, is strike attack and crit, which is incredibly unique and very uncommon. So overall, though, again, I do think he deserves it. Hopefully he does pick one up. Overall, Hybrids, I think, is a good team. I think that their main units, though, are all blast-based, and this character doesn't really lend into that too much. But I really do hope that he does pick up a Vegeta family secondary buff, at least, because a Vegeta family getting access to more strike support and a crit would be pretty crazy. And they still need a green tag supporter anyway, right? So, good character. I'm taking him off my list, though. So this is a character that actually just needs an entire rework. I mean, I understand the Gohan added focus that he has on the self-destruct and stuff like that, but it's just not conducive to teams that they would be applicable to together, unless they start rounding out the Android's Saga Z ability here. So unless they do that, there's not really much of a reason to use him alongside a Gohan, and it's really not even too possible. So I think he deserves it, but alas, with Androids, they just don't need him right now. I think Androids is set. Android 14 holds that spot pretty nicely as a green unit, and I'm going to go ahead and take him off my list as well. There's still 10 units on this list, and it's getting really hard to narrow these down. Very, very hard. Okay, our next one off the list is this Gohan. For one, he's a melee fighter that holds double blast, again, like 18. I will say that on the hybrid team, that's not particularly too bad because their best units are blast-based, but you probably don't want 9 blast cards in your deck in most cases, so that's one of the things that I will kind of highlight for him, though. But he has, just like the Trunks, has the potential to be one of the best melee fighters in the game, and back in the early days of the game, he was pretty much one of those alongside the Blue Broly, but the issue with this card always was that you just didn't have enough melee cards in your deck. But regardless, though, he can be really good. They need to rework this Piccolo focus, just like 16, though, because needing to be alongside a specific character was something they used a lot in the early game, but it's not as common nowadays for good reason, because it's not very conducive to playstyle or building your team, right? But if they decide to buff out this tag, maybe we can do that, right? We'll see. But again, for now, though, good character that deserves, well, not good character, but he's a character that deserves a buff. And I don't think I'm going to use him on this list, though, simply because also his Z ability is retread with Gotenks. Even though Gotenks needs a specific limit break, I believe, I'll still just kind of take him off the list for now. But good potential. This is getting stressfully hard. It's getting really hard to discern which unit should stay on this list anymore. Unfortunately, though, this time around, I'm taking off the not Dragon Fist, but the Fist Goku. He's coming off the list. I just couldn't say him and Broly both should get a buff. Both blue units, both from sagas from the movie. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it personally. But again, I think he deserves it. But I think maybe he's a little bit more down the line. Okay, so here we're going to actually eliminate a couple and just pretty much round this out. So what I've decided is I'm going to have 5 with 1 as an honorable mention because that makes it easier on me. But Piccolo will be the next one off of the list simply because Regen at least does have other good blue units. And I think Regen as a tag just doesn't really need this Piccolo in particular as a main unit that you would run on the team. And he can still be used as a decent bench, I'd say. And he still has some things he's good, like versus androids, so you could take him if you really want to. He's not good by any measure anymore, but he at least also can still do unfavorable element nullification. So again, I think he deserves it. It's just not on my list now, but good potential, very good potential. This guy will be amazing overall whenever he does get his buff, and he's going to really, really take PvP by storm, in my opinion, with what he can do afterwards. Now, for the next one on my list, though, this one's really annoying to me because Blue Pod Frieza came out with this Bardock, and Blue Pod Frieza was actually buffed in the last batch, and I really think this Bardock deserves it. But I don't want to buff too many Saiyan characters, for one, and I don't want to give Saiyans too many more Z abilities. And also when I look at Saiyans as well, they just don't really need another green. I mean, this Goku just came out. GT Goku is still good. I guess they could use another green, to be honest. They could use another green. Those are the only two that I'd really say are like really good green units for Saiyans. The rest of them are kind of decent. That's about it. They could use it, I guess. I feel bad about it, but I'm going to go ahead and take him off of my list. But he is right on the bubble, man. He is right on the bubble. He just missed the cut. He has everything that you would need. The locking, the strike damage up. Like, this character will be phenomenal overall. He is going to be really good. But overall, though, I couldn't do it, man. But one thing I really like to see, I do hope he gets the buff as well, just so I can also do the Fasha Tora Bardock thing the way it's supposed to be done with the base Bardock, who's actually, I think, worse than these units in a lot of cases. But it's just due to how old he is, right? But again, the locking, all that stuff, he's really good. So, anyways, all right, let's go ahead and get into the final list. Okay, so my honorable mention is this guy, not because I don't think he deserves it more than most of the units on the list, but because I think that since he's PvP based, they could handle his a little bit differently. Like, they could just give him a buff at some point and not make it a part of a character balance change like 5 like we generally get. Like, he could be a bonus one that we get at some point because, again, I think he's PvP based, he's free, all of that. So I don't think he really needs to take up one of our spots. So I'm hoping that they include him on the upgrade as well eventually. But honestly, I feel like we've gone through like 30 seasons of PvP almost, and he still hasn't had it. So I honestly feel like they're just kind of just going to let him sit here and probably give us another character you can exchange instead of buffing him. So for the next one on my list, though, Super Saiyan Trunks. This is actually really long overdue. I've recently used this character, and don't worry, me using characters is not going to affect these units getting buffed, but I've recently used pretty much every character on this list from here on out. This character, I think, deserves it. A secondary Z ability of Vegeta family, like I mentioned earlier, is needed. Even though we have a red unit already, we just need more Vegeta family units overall. But I think this character deserves it because he's been a character that's been in the game since launch, basically, and still hasn't received one. And any character that's been in the game since launch and hasn't received one literally deserves to be on the top of the list, which is why characters like Gohan and 18 were on the top of the list initially, despite my issues with those characters. So Trunks, 100%. Please give him one. He's a defense type character for one, which means that he can be very similar to the Android 17. They can do stuff like reducing key on cover change. They can upgrade his cover change from 40 to 50%. They can do better damage bonuses in here because most defense units have very good damage bonuses and stuff like that overall as well. Like the Goku that recently came out, like Brienne, they can do some really fun stuff with him. And especially because since he's defense, he'll be good at blasts and strikes, which is why he also holds 1-in-1. So he deserves it. Another one that deserves it, again, same reason as the initial guy. They've been buffing this out, and I really do think that we're probably going to get this buff, and he'll probably wind up buffing post 5-star this Z ability too. Now, I really hope that they give him defense as well, strike defense, because when you look at the Frieza Saga tag, they're all, post 5-star, they're all double attackers. These are all a double attack, which is incredible, by the way, to have this many double attackers or individual attacker in case of him. But like these EXs are all double attack for the Z ability. That's crazy that they have that, but they have no defense, so they get hit really hard. But again, if we have LF Goku, this would be a nice inclusion, because even if he doesn't buff that tag, on that team, him and LF Goku at least share buffs with each other between the Saiyan tag, so that'd be really cool. And this guy, again, launch character, poster boy for the launch, deserves it. Blue Broly. Still actually has a really decent strike attack when he's fully maxed out, 130,000. Was pretty much the best character in the game for a good bit of time. We had this really interesting trio of best characters between him, Green Piccolo, and Purple Vegeta whenever this guy was new, because they all countered each other, right? And Broly was just such a monster. And force switching was awesome back then. He has blast armor despite it not literally being blast armor. It goes through ki apparently. So like stuff like that. So deserves it. And I think that him having sagas from the movies as a bench buff is good, and that group has been getting buffed lately, so I can really see this happening. Now, I don't think they could, okay, he's got, yeah, I think they just leave him with blast defense, which is unfortunate, but I think they just buff it to like 30%, similar to Meta Coolers, but finally him being usable again for the first time in over a year would be really useful. And we have Perfect Cell here, who makes my list largely because Regen, I think, is a team that needs another red. Like, they need it dearly. Zamasu is good. He is good, but he's nowhere near the force he once was. Just like 4 to 6 months ago, he was one of the best characters in the game. And with all the nullification of endurance, his lack of damage, he struggles to keep up nowadays. Metacooler is a thing. He's okay. I mean, he's a thing. But Perfect Cell would be awesome. And then if they buff him too, he's actually another character that can also slot into androids, which is awesome too. Androids, I don't think particularly need it now because they recently picked up a couple, but it doesn't hurt to get another red because they needed one for so long. And also, this guy still doesn't buff androids anyway, so might as well just give him that post 5 strike attack, or give him another stat, whatever. But he's a range character, so when he's with those range characters, he'll be able to function very well. The only downside is Regen is largely strike attack based. So it just kind of depends. It just kind of depends on the scenario. But again, I think he deserves it, and I think it's overdue. And I do hope that when it comes to him, they really do make him impressive. And these characters are characters, by the way, that have ultimates. They have ults, and they're not able to really do anything. These are all characters that have ults, man. Please upgrade these cards. Last one on my list is IT Goku. I am so scared of this guy's buff because he will be so freaking good. His special move is a counter, just like LF Goku. I believe they're the only 2 counter special moves in the game. His special move gets priority over just about everything. He's got the cover rescue twice, just like, well, he has it twice, like Ultimate Gohan. But Cell has that too. You guys mainly use Cell most of the time, right? If you have Cell. He only buffs green. It's double attack, but I think that with him, they'll probably just buff this to a higher percentage, like 30+. But the potential for a secondary buff, like, I don't know, Cell Saga, I don't know, something like that would be awesome overall. He's a support type character. He functions very well with Gohan cards. If they wanted to give this guy Sun Family, oh my gosh, man. I'm terrified of him because he can be disgustingly good. So he's going to be the last one on my list, but I think that he's probably the best character on the list anyway still. But yeah, thank you all for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed. And again, this is just my list of characters I think that should get it. But like I said, every character initially I started off with is equally worthy of it, I think, as far as how old they are, how irrelevant they are in the game, stuff like that. But some, I think, deserve it more than others, especially due to how old some of these units are at this point. And the fact that, again, all the characters on this list, up until Green Goku here, and also excluding this guy, all the ones in between all have ultimates, man. They've got to be able to utilize those better. So there's no reason to have an ultimate on a card if they're not going to be used, man. Anyways, thank you all for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Hit that subscribe if you are new for more content, and let me know what you think. Have an awesome day, and I'll catch all of you in the next one.